Hi, I'm Dave Vickers and welcome to the Photo Show. In today's episode we're going to take a look at using the adjustment brush in Lightroom. In previous episodes we've looked at some of the other tools in Lightroom, but today we're going to concentrate on looking at the adjustment brush. So if you look over here on your right hand side, just below the histogram, you've got your tools panel here with the crop tool, spot removal tool, red eye correction, graduated filter, radial filter, and at the end here we've got the adjustment brush. And you can either click on the icon, or as you can see in the brackets there, you can use the keyboard shortcut of just pressing K. Before I start, I'm going to use this image here taken from a wedding. I'm going to do a really quick edit on it before we start using the adjustment brush. So the first thing I'm going to do here is just bring the color temperature down a little bit. Bring the exposure up ever so slightly. I'm going to add a little bit of contrast in. Drop the highlights down. Open up the shadow slightly. I'm going to set a white point by holding down Alt or Option on the keyboard while I'm clicking, dragging up slightly till I start to see a little bit of white appearing. That's set the white point, and do the same with the blacks. Hold down the Alt or Option key and just drag to the left until you start to see some blacks appearing. And a tiny touch of clarity. And drop the vibrancy down a touch as well. Okay, so there's a really quick edit. So what we want to look at now is how you would use the adjustment brush within Lightroom. So we're going to click on the icon here, or just press K on our keyboard. And as you can see now, that's now opened up a dialog box underneath. And these are all of the adjustments that you can use with your adjustment brush. And as you can see at the beginning now, they're all set on 0. If they're not set on 0, you can double click on the word effect there. If we move some of the settings here, and if I double click on the word effect, they'll all go back to 0. So this is where you want to start. You want to start with a 0 point. Now, looking at the image, I think the first thing I want to try with the adjustment brush is to lighten up the groom's face here. So I'm going to up my exposure ever so slightly by half a stop. And I'm going to bring the adjustment brush in, and you can see now that we've got a target area with the adjustment brush. We've got two circles with a cross in the middle, so the cross is a plus here. Now, if we come to the bottom of our adjustment brush dialog here, we've got some options here. One is size, and if I scroll that up, you can see that the size of the brush gets larger or smaller. You can also adjust this by using the scroll wheel on your mouse. So scroll up and the brush will get larger, scroll down and the brush will get smaller. Next we have feather, and feather dictates how much the brush is feathered. At the moment it's on 100%. You can see in the icon there that it's 2 circles. If I bring the feather down, you'll now see that the circle starts to close in, and that means it's going to be a harder edge brush. The effect you're going to have is having a harder edge rather than being feathered out and soft. But I'm going to keep that at 100% for the time being. I'm going to keep the flow at 100%. So we can see exactly what is happening here. And underneath the flow here, we have what's called auto mask. Now I'm going to turn that off for the time being, because I'll show you what auto mask does in a little while. So let's turn the auto mask off. Okay, so let's come into the image now with our adjustment brush. And if we click around on the groom's face, you can see now that that brush is starting to have an effect. If I turn the brush on and off, we've got a little on and off switch here at the bottom. That's before, that's after. And basically what we've done here is we've brushed in another half a stop of exposure. If we press O on our keyboard, that's going to show us our mask, and that's going to show you exactly where that brush has had its effect. I'll press O to come back out of it. If we now move our exposure slider, you can see we can darken down that area and just affect that area as we wish. So if I decided that the half a stop was too much, I could bring that back a touch there. And now you can adjust any of these settings. If you want to take the highlights out of the face, if you want to bring the shadows up, want to add a little bit more clarity to his face. You can see now if I toggle that on and off, it's had quite an effect from before. So when the filter's off, you can see the face is darker. With the filter on, where we've added the adjustment brush, you can see that it's made a huge difference. Now, let me just press O again for our mask. You can see here that as well as affecting the face, the feathering has also affected other areas. It's affected the hair slightly around the outside and on the bride's face as well here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this adjustment brush. So you can either right click there and delete, or just press delete on your keyboard. I'm going to delete from there. So there, now we're back to the beginning. Okay, what I'm going to do exactly the same again, keeping the exposure at half a stop, but this time I'm going to click Auto Mask. And what Auto Mask is going to do, it's going to actually detect the areas around. And now as long as I use that center cross in the skin tones, you can see now with the mask that it's actually only affecting the skin tones. If I turn the mask off, you can see now that it's only actually affecting the skin tones. It's not going into the hair, it's not bleeding over into the rest of the image. So we can go around, and if I just click on the skin tones, just making sure that that cross in the center is on the area that we're looking for. You can see now that the Auto Mask has done a really good job of constraining where the effect is taking place. If I take the mask off now, you can now see that I've lightened up both their skin. If I now adjust the exposure, you can see it's only going to affect the skin tone. It's not affecting anywhere else around it. It's a really good way of making your adjustment brush just work in the area that you're wanting it to do. So what else can we do with the adjustment brush? Let's have another look here. So we have this curtain down the side, and let's for example say that this time what I'd like to do is to change the color of that curtain. So we're going to click on New here to give us a new adjustment brush, and we're going to double click Effect to bring everything back to 0. Now you can see it hasn't affected our original adjustment brush. Our original adjustment brush is still there. If we click on that dot there, it comes back to our original settings. But we're going to add a new adjustment brush with absolutely 0 settings in it. And what I want to do this time is to actually change the color of this curtain. At the bottom here we have a little option that says color, and at the moment as we hover over it, it says no color effect. If we click on that, it opens up a color swatch window. So let's say for example that I would like the color of this curtain to closer match the suit that the groom's wearing. So let's pick a blue color. We'll go there and let's bring our adjustment brush in. I'm just going to paint on the curtain. Okay, let's press our O button to show our masking. And because we had Auto Mask checked here, you can see it's done a really good job of just holding the area of the curtain. Click a bit more there. And you can see here we've got a little area here where it's come over into the suit as well. I'd like to remove that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my scroll wheel on the mouse to make my brush size smaller. And if I hold down Alt or Option, you can see now that the brush changes from a plus to a minus. Holding down the Alt or Option key changes it to a minus. And that's going to allow us to take that effect away. So let's take it away from his suit and let go. Right, let's go back to let's press O on our keyboard to hide the mask. And you can see now that we've changed the colour from what it was. So let's turn the filters off. And you can see there that originally the curtain was a kind of pinky, reddy-ish tone. And now we've added that blue over the top of it, it's actually made it look more purple. But we can adjust that again because it's quite a heavy saturation. So we click on our colour there. And you can see here the colour that we've actually chosen. If I click on that and start to drag, if you watch the picture, we can change through all of the colour options that we have. So let's find a colour that starts to match with the suit. Round about there is looking good. Now, if we instead of going horizontally, start to go vertically, that colour is going to saturate a lot more. If we bring it down, the saturation is going to drop and bring us much closer to our original colour. And you can see at the bottom there's a little slider wheel, a little slider here, and we can adjust that once we've got the colour to adjust the saturation. Okay, so let's leave it there. So now you can see we've added two adjustment brush options. We've got the one adjustment brush that we've used on the skin here to adjust the exposure and to lighten the skin up. And we've got the second adjustment brush here that we've used to change the colour of the curtain here. Okay, let's try another option here. Let's use the adjustment brush for something else. Let's use it for something slightly more creative and see how that goes. So let's come back up and we're going to click new again to give us a new adjustment brush. So we're on a new adjustment brush now. And what I'm going to do this time is where we've got light coming in from the window here, let's make that more exaggerated. So let's make a larger brush size there. And let's bring the exposure up to a full stop. Let's bring it up to just over a full stop there, it'll do. And let's just click in there. Okay, so now you can see what we've done is by moving the exposure we can bring that up even more. It's exaggerating the amount of light that was coming through the window on the side, and we can increase the highlights there, we can increase our whites. But you can see there now we've added another adjustment brush, and that's given yet another effect. So what you can do with the adjustment brush is have really localized effects on your image. And I'm just showing three examples here of things you can do with the adjustment brush. In the first example here, we've adjusted the skin to make it lighter. In the second example here, we've changed the colour of the curtain to closer match the suit. And in the third example here, we've upped the exposure to make it look like there's more light coming through the window. So let's just scroll down for a second and let's turn those off. So before we started with the adjustment brush, that was how our image looked. So it's a nice image, it looks perfectly fine. Now we've added the adjustment brushes in, I think you'll agree it's a lot more balanced. The colour tones, the curtain is now not as distracting as it was because the colour is matching closer to the suit colour on the groom. So there you go, it's a really quick example of how you can use the adjustment brush within Lightroom. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments below. But for now, my name's Dave Vickers, this is The Photo Show, thanks for watching. See you next time.